Shalom, friends. This is Daniel with Bless Israel Network, and this is another episode of Eye on Israel. Today, I guess I have two words. I'm frustrated. What am I frustrated about? Well, I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to the news lately, but the situation here in Israel has gotten quite exasperating with respect to what's been going on in the Gaza Strip and the relentless attacks that have been coming against Israel. Now, normally, we tend in Israel to live with a pretty high amount of stress and tension, escalation, confrontation, if you will, and what have you, because we're surrounded. We've got hostile neighbors in the north with Lebanon and Hezbollah and Syria and the whole situation going on there. And then down at the other end of the country, which of course is the size of New Jersey, don't forget. So we're not talking about a big country here. You know that 34 Israels could fit in the state of Texas. 34 of our entire countries could fit in one U.S. state. So we're very small. And, you know, the situation in the Gaza Strip has been going on for years and years and years. And we are very, very strong proponents of Benjamin Netanyahu. Right now, we are a little bit frustrated because there has been so many rocket and mortar attacks that have come from Gaza in the last several days that we are hoping and praying that our Prime Minister is finally going to stop allowing this to go on and take some punitive action. Now, normally I wouldn't send a message out like this because it's a little worldly, because we know it's really God's fight and we know that in the end what God's plan is, but nonetheless in our flesh we are living here in the land doing our best to fulfill what God has called us to do by living here in Israel amongst his chosen people. And sometimes it gets a little bit difficult, especially when we know that our military has the ability to go in and get the job done. The problem is that our Prime Minister is a victim of world politics. Politics is what drives so much of the statements that come from the EU and the United Nations. And those politics are driven in many instances by good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. You know it, and I know it. So I believe that Netanyahu is playing a bit of a cat and mouse game, if you will. I don't think he wants to incur the ire of the EU and the UN, because I can't imagine why he would not authorize a full counter response to go into Gaza and just take care of this once and for all. I think the challenge is, in his mind, that he's looking for some sort of a green light from President Trump, because I think that if he gets a green light from President Trump to do what he feels he needs to do, that he feels he'll be able to withstand any, let's just say, hostile, unfair, anti-Israel action, sentiments, statements, or sentiments or statements that come out of the EU or the UN. And for sure they will if Israel does anything. You don't see any action, any statements whatsoever from the EU or the UN when Hamas is firing rockets day after day after day. You don't see anything. And yet, if Israel responds and someone, a terrorist even, gets killed, oh my gosh, they want to have an emergency session. They want punitive action and sanctions taken against Israel. It's just incredible. Well, there comes a point where enough is enough. And over the past several days, in excess of 200 rockets and mortar attacks have been launched against Israel. those poor innocent civilians that live in the towns like Cedar Road down there near the Gaza Strip. You've heard the term post-traumatic stress syndrome. Well, they're not post anything. They are right in the midst of it, and it's happening almost every hour around the clock. I was in our Shabbat worship service on Shabbat, and I have an app on my phone called the Red Alert. And anytime there's a rocket attack, it sends out an alert and lets you know where it is and the timing of it and so on and so forth. And you're allowed to post comments and so on. I had to shut it off because it was going off literally every single minute on Shabbat while I was in worship yesterday. And it wasn't just while I was in worship. It was going off before, and it kept going on afterwards. The Jerusalem Post put an article up, which can be seen if you go to jerusalempost.com. Over 200 rockets and mortars were fired from Gaza in one 24-hour period. Enough is enough, my friends, right? I'm going to put a link up here, and on that link, because I can't put the whole link there, it's too long, but on that link, if you'll go to that, okay, you have to enter it into your search engine manually and then click on it. But once you do that, it'll bring up this website, and then look for an article that says, "Man survives Hamas rocket attack as 3 Israelis wounded." Click on that and look and see the video clips of what's been happening, especially the first two. The first one, look how close that guy, when a video camera was running, look how close that guy came to being hit. And then the second one, well, the second one speaks for itself. It's a poor woman who just can't take it anymore, and her reaction expresses how many people feel. Just imagine if you were living in a situation like that. Imagine if you were living in Dallas, Texas, and right next to Dallas, Texas is a city called, well, let's just say what's the name? Grand Prairie, which is not right next to Dallas, but it's close enough. And rockets kept flying in. How long would you put up with it? Or let's say if you lived in El Paso and across the Mexican border, rockets kept coming in from El Paso. How long do you think Texas or the United States would put up with it? They wouldn't. Not after one. And since Hamas has been in control of the Gaza Strip, well over 15,000, by now probably close to 20,000, and I'm not exaggerating, you can look it up, close to 20,000 rockets have been launched at Israel from the Gaza Strip. It's absolutely unacceptable under any conditions. And Hamas says that they're willing to enter into a long-term truce with Israel. I have 2 letters, BS. I'm sorry, friends. These are people who are theologically committed to destroy Israel and annihilate the Jewish people. They lie with every word they speak, with every breath they take. They need to be eradicated and stopped once and for all, and those poor innocent people living down near the Gaza Strip in Israel deserve peace. And I am a little bit frustrated that our Prime Minister has not yet taken full retaliatory action. And I don't mean tit for tat. I mean that they've got to make a decision to go into the Gaza Strip and do what it takes to stop this once and for all. I don't care how politically incorrect it may seem. I don't care what the EU says. I don't care what the United Nations says, okay? Israelis deserve to live in peace. And you know what? There's probably a lot of innocent Gazans who don't agree with Hamas, but they're afraid to come out because they'll get tortured, they'll get hung, they'll get shot, because Hamas is a terrorist organization. And if you don't agree with them, they just kill you, plain and simple. So it's a shame that there's probably a fair number of innocent Gazans that are victims, but at the same time, shame on them for not doing enough to stop these bloodthirsty terrorists that run the Gaza Strip. So, my friends, I know this is a little bit heated. It's a little bit maybe out of character. It may not sound very godly, but I'm hoping God intervenes and sends a message to Bibi Netanyahu that he needs to go in and do the right thing once and for all. So please let other people know, share this message, tell people to send emails to Bibi Netanyahu. You can do that. There's a link where you can actually send emails. Let your congressman know that the United States needs to be bold and stand up, and the president needs to give Israel a green light to do what it needs to do to stop these terrorists from murdering innocent people. God bless you from Israel for now.